In case you guys missed it, yesterday Siege got hacked. The hackers were able to ban the entire player base and then unban them, give everyone billions of credits, and send messages through the ban ticker. And then at the moment, during the recording of this video, the servers have been down with no ETA on when things will be fixed. So I went through the whole chain of events, explained what you guys need to know and what you need to worry about, and likely what will happen in the near future. Keep in mind this was all recorded and edited yesterday, so news could have come out overnight that I might not have up to date in this video. But here's everything you need to know. Okay, chat, let's talk. So starting from the beginning, Siege is down. Okay, so we're all on the same page, right? Siege is down. Why did I draw this in the middle? At around, I think it was 7 or 8 p.m. last night is when the first attack happened. So, if I'm not mistaken, what happened first was they banned everyone. But they banned everyone for cheating, and then they banned everyone for harassment. This happened about, I think, 16 hours ago. Now, people might be wondering why Ubisoft did not act when this happened, because only just this morning, about 14 hours after this happened, did they finally start addressing stuff. So there's two reasons. One, Christmas break. Ubisoft always goes on Christmas break from like the 23rd until New Year. Okay? So they're bare bones. This has always been a thing. I've always complained about it, and I told them, I'm like, I understand devs need time off, devs need holidays, but like you can't just have everyone go on Christmas break and leave not even a skeleton crew left to handle the whole situation. I'm like, you need more people on during Christmas break. Two, this happening, it wouldn't surprise me if some of the devs were like, oh, it was just a hiccup. I think that's probably the best way you can put it. Since everyone got banned and then immediately unbanned, they probably were like, you know, like anti-cheat bugged out, but everyone's fine, so we're good. And then because no one reacted and Ubisoft didn't do anything about this, I think that's what gave the hackers motivation to be like, okay, we can do more. Like Ubisoft didn't even care that we just did this or this. So what did they do right after? They started sending stuff through the ban ticker. Also, I want it to be known that Annie said I would never use this whiteboard, and I think I've used it like 4 times this year. I'm getting my money's worth. So after they banned everyone, they started sending messages through the ban ticker. You'll see a lot of photos of this on the subreddit and through like Twitter, stuff like that. They were just sending... Honestly, I was surprised. They were not sending that bad messages. Like, normally when this happens, if they compromise the ban ticker, first we got the chicken from the wildcard event. They were like, people, when first they figured out how to do the ban ticker stuff, they would send through a chicken. And then it only took like an hour before they started sending up just straight penises on your screen. So surprisingly, with the ban ticker, they were only sending in like messages. They said something like Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night. They said, what else are they hiding from us? They said the CEO of Ubisoft was in the Epstein files. So like that one's pretty bad. But like normally when this type of stuff happens, they send through like images, racial slurs, stuff like that to try to fuck over as many streamers as possible. So I'm genuinely surprised they didn't do that much. But then this went through and let me see. If I'm not mistaken, that happened last night as well. The banned messages, I'm looking on the subreddit now, were all posted about an hour or 2 ago. So this was... Actually, no. One of them was posted 8 hours ago. So I think the bans happened about 16 hours ago. The messages came through 8 hours ago, which would have been around 4 a.m. So with that all happening at around 4 a.m., obviously a lot of the devs are going to be asleep. I don't think we can really ban or like fault people for, you know, being asleep. Everyone needs to sleep. So majority of the devs asleep. And then it got posted everywhere this was happening in the morning. So first thing they do, they can finally react after they have woken up. Not to mention that most of these devs are probably on holiday, which means that Ubisoft now has to pay them all like overtime and emergency whatever to get them to come in and start fixing this. Ooh, the credits were the next part. We'll go over here. So after ban ticker, then they did credits. Everyone, I think, got something different. So the base was everyone got 2 billion credits, and then everyone got put to like level 200k. And then this is where I think it got really different. Personally, I only got 3 glaciers, the dev skin, and the clover charm. Some people said they got every skin in the entire game. Some people said they got nothing. Now, I know everyone likes to shit talk UB, and understandably so. You know, they do a lot of stuff wrong. This is when they finally reacted, but it did coincide with everyone waking up, because the credits and stuff happened at like 7 a.m. this morning, and then obviously devs are waking up, and Ubisoft's like, red alert, all hands on deck. This is when Ubisoft finally reacted. It is crazy that this didn't raise some flags, but again, I can understand it. Imagine, to make it easy for everyone, I'm sure everyone here at some point has worked retail at a store, whatever. Imagine if the alarm in the back room goes off and you go check it out and you're like, oh, there's nothing wrong. The alarm's like blaring, you put in your code to end the alarm, and then you just go back about your business because you're like, the alarm must have like went off by accident. So I think this would be almost equivalent to that. Because like that happened when I worked in a grocery store, that happened all the time. Alarms would go off for the emergency escape door. No one's even there, and it's like, well, whatever. Or they banned everyone the devs saw, and they're like, that's weird. That shouldn't be happening. So they just rolled back all the bans, and they're like, we're good. Like maybe the anti-cheat again hiccuped, whatever. They probably didn't think it was that severe. That's my guess. Ubisoft finally reacted when it was this, because obviously this clearly means something is wrong. The ban ticker, they probably also didn't react to too fast, because that has happened before. It's obviously a bad thing, the ban ticker being compromised, but it's not the end of the world, and they probably would just be like, just deactivate the ban ticker until we're ready to move forward. Now that everything has been shut down, Siege, so this all led into Siege is now down. They have shut down the servers, they have shut down the marketplace. Now, here's where we start looking into who would have done this, why have they done this, and is there anything else we can draw from that? A lot of known community people who constantly, you know, steal accounts, do whatever, leak information, all claim that they had nothing to do with this. Game Addict mentioned that what if it was the people who got banned for terms of service bans, and this is their way of reacting and being like, fuck you, Ubisoft, you want to ban my account? I'm going to take down everything. I think it's very unlikely. So, in my opinion, this was probably in the works for over 2 weeks. That would be my guess. I think that it's very unlikely that they just figured this out Christmas Day. I think that they learned about this exploit, whatever they did, over 2 weeks ago, and then they were like, okay, let's see what the limits are. They probably did some type of limit testing. They maybe, I don't know this for sure, this is just speculation on my part. It wouldn't surprise me if they were like randomly banning 1 or 2 accounts to see if the system would notice. Like, if the devs would be like, hey, why did this person just randomly get banned for no reason? So they probably did like small tests. And I know people in chat are going to be like, that's why I got banned, because of this fucking compromise. No, that's probably not why. It's very unlikely any of you would have gotten affected by this. But they probably did some type of limit testing. And then they thought, okay, if they figured this out like 2 weeks ago, they're going to think, do we do it now while all the devs are here, or do we wait until the devs leave? So then they probably waited 2 weeks until Christmas time, and obviously, I don't know any actual suspects, like names of people, but whoever did this is probably the same type of people who are just constantly trying to shut down Ubisoft or Siege however they can. And this is not unique to Siege. I honestly, for a while, I was like, man, like the community for Siege is just so toxic. Like so many people hate the devs, they hate the game, and they go out of their way to try to make it as miserable for everyone. This is not unique to Siege. This is literally every game ever. Yep, Apex had it. Apex had a massive security breach where people were able to like hack into people's computers using it. But I don't think that's a concern for this. We're going to go through a few things of what you guys need to know, because a lot of people have a lot of questions about that. First things first, bans aren't permanent. If you got banned because of these hackers, you will probably be unbanned. And the only reason I say probably is because unless you did something egregious that mainly got you banned, then you should be fine. If you were banned for no reason and you just didn't get unbanned, you will probably be unbanned once they figure this whole thing out. Second, piss off a lot of people. The credits aren't yours. I don't care if you got 2 billion credits. Chat, You guys are poor, okay? You can barely afford to sub to my channel. You don't own $12 million worth of credits, okay? It doesn't matter if the hackers gave it to you. It doesn't matter if you have them on your account. The credits aren't yours, okay? That means Ubisoft has every right to take them away. That means if you buy anything, if you use any of the credits, Ubisoft has within their authority to refund it and ban you if you were egregious, okay? Quick update that just came out while I was editing this portion. Ubisoft has put out a statement that they will not ban you for spending credits. They're just going to roll back all purchases, so any credits you used are just going to be null and void. You're going to lose all the skins you bought, and you're going to lose the 2 billion credits, but you'll keep whatever you originally had. So don't worry about getting banned. No one's going to get banned from this. I'm still going to leave in this whole section that we're talking about, just so people understand that in the future, if this happens again, Ubisoft can choose to ban you if they want to. Doesn't mean you're getting banned this time, but just know about it for the future. Why are we catching strays? Because people think they're entitled to their credits. There are so many people who have been in chat today who are just like, Ubisoft shouldn't ban me. That's not my fault. Chat, if you go to the bank and your bank account says $10 million in it and you spend it all, that money is not yours, okay? It doesn't matter if it says it's in your account. That money is not yours. Again, you guys are poor. You can't afford that. It sucks when you see the possibilities and you can't use it, but it is not yours, okay? So you guys can't complain if you get banned for using credits. So that means goes into the next thing. So while the bans from before aren't permanent, you might get banned if you use the credits. And you cannot complain about that, okay? I understand that it's annoying when you're given 2 billion credits, you use them, and then they ban you. But again, if you use something that's not yours, you cannot be surprised when they ban you. Now, we talked about this before, but I'll say it again. Ubisoft has complete and utter authority to ban you for any reason that they want. You literally could just be sitting there, just a chill guy, not doing anything, and they could ban you if they want, and you just can't do anything about it. Now, obviously, most companies don't do this because banning people for no fucking reason doesn't make sense. But if you use all the credits and buy a shit ton of stuff, they might say, this person might be involved with the people who gave them credits and are just using the credits to buy everything they can. So if you abused the credits, you might get banned. You can't be mad when that happens. I see people in YouTube chat who are pissed off at the fact that you might get banned. That's on you. If you get banned, you get banned. What about Renown? I doubt they'll care as much about Renown, but same. Just don't use it. Servers are down now anyways. If you already used it, that's on you. Again, to use a real life example, if a bank accidentally puts $2 million into your bank account and you use the money and then they ask for it back because they realize their mistake, you can get arrested for it. This is a real life example. There was a case, and I think it was Australia, where someone went to their ATM, saw that they had $10 million, never told the bank, and just spent all the money. And then after, I think it was like 3 years, the bank figured out, they're like, we lost $10 million. Where did this go? They found out they gave it to that person by accident, and then the person was arrested because they were using money that wasn't theirs. Now, obviously, that's real life. You're not going to go to prison, but your account might get banned. So, what next? What else do you guys need to know? We have no timeline. We have absolutely zero clue when this is going to be fixed. Ubisoft, again, has intentionally taken down the game to make sure that you guys aren't going to abuse the credits and that this isn't an issue, because obviously, if they have access to the entire backend, they could do even more. So they have completely shut down the game for the time being. We don't know when it'll be fixed. I seriously doubt it'll take more than 24 hours. I believe what they are more likely to do is to revert the whole server to before this happened and then just cut off any access for now until they are fully back in office. My theory is 24 hours until we can play again. Within 24 hours. I think for all of this to be resolved is going to be about 2 weeks. So, what does that mean for 2 weeks for total resolution? What that means is that, let's just say, when all of this was happening, you bought an elite skin using your own credits, and then you relogged, and then you found out you had 2 billion credits, and then When Ubisoft sees this, they're going to be like, hey, he bought something with his credits. We're refunding that, but we're not giving you the credits yet. So it'll probably be like 2 weeks until you would get those credits back. Again, Ubisoft's not going to take stuff from you. They're not going to like scam you in this case. It's just going to take a while to go through everything. And this is where things get complicated. Ubisoft is not exactly known for very efficient fixings of things. I don't know how else to phrase that. So a lot of you guys know about the login rewards for, not the daily login rewards, but remember for your veteran stuff. So you get like a 2015 badge, and if you played in year 1, you get like the glacier or the like fake black ice, whatever, right? I still don't have any of that. Ubisoft was supposed to give all of us all of those items. I still only have the 2015 badge and nothing else. And when I asked Ubisoft about it, they said, we have people manually going through and adding rewards to everyone because their system broke down. It didn't work. So instead of like, I guess, pushing it through the system again, they just have sometimes devs manually pushing through all of these changes, which is not good. I have told them before, I'm like, you can't just keep relying on a manual system. That is not good. They also had to do that when the Doctor's Curse credit thing happened. When they went through that, so with the Doctor's Curse credit pack thing, I found out about it. It was where if you bought all the packs, you couldn't open them, so it would refund all the packs, but it would give you more credits than what you spent. I posted about it, and I told people, I was like, don't do this because you might get banned. A lot of people did it, and they got banned. Ubisoft then went through and manually reviewed all of those cases. Or not all of them, I guess in some cases. So it's not an efficient system. It takes them forever to go through, and I remember some people for the Doctor's Curse thing, it just said you are banned, but it didn't tell you how long you were banned for. It wasn't until they reviewed your account and then took everything away and then added your account back in that you would get unbanned. So this is not the first time Ubisoft will have to like manually comb through stuff. For something like this, it actually might even take longer than 2 weeks, but I think they'll probably just go based off of the last update, reset everyone's credits and renown, and just hope for the best. That's my guess. But overall, no timeline. We have zero clue when this is going to be fixed. The other important thing, and I think this is probably the most important thing for you guys to know, you are not compromised. This is very important. A lot of you don't know how the systems work. I don't even know how the systems work. I am using my 1.5 years of computer science degree and then 4 months of working as an IT person at a school, understanding their servers and stuff to explain this. So I'm not even the best person for this, but I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can. Everyone has your local access, which is your computer with your information, blah, blah, blah. And then the servers have access to other things, and then they, connect. So the servers have access to credits, your level, your renown, so that way you can't like locally farm or manipulate it. You can't just say, I own 2 billion credits, and it gives it to you. That is all server side. So what has been compromised is the backend. Ubisoft's backend for Siege has been compromised. But that does not mean that your account, your personal information has been compromised. A lot of people are posting saying, uninstall Siege. Don't even touch Siege until this gets resolved. As far as we are to understand, again, we could be wrong because we don't know what's going on fully. They don't have access to anything of your personal information. Because all they're doing is just pushing stuff through the server. The ban ticker is server side. Credits, banning everyone, that's all server side. They have not done anything on local machines. As far as we are to understand, the anti-cheat itself has also not been compromised because there's multiple layers to this. I'm trying to find the best way to explain it, but basically the anti-cheat is like, an actual piece of software. It's not like they have access to everything in the anti-cheat because the bans are also different. You can ban someone without having access to the anti-cheat. That is why Ubisoft can manually ban people. It's not like they have to send it into BattlEye and be like, yo, ban people. That's not how that works. So just because they can ban people does not mean that they have access to your computer or to the anti-cheat. It's just to the server and they can push through things. So you guys are not compromised. Your account is not compromised. All right. And then here's the other 2 important pieces of information that go along with the you have not been compromised. You do not have to uninstall. You can. If you are worried about this, if you are concerned about your safety, about your personal security, you can uninstall, but you don't have to. Because again, all they have access to is the server. Right now, I have the game open. They don't have access to anything because the servers are down. Very likely right now, the people who did all of this don't have access to anything because since the servers are down, they can't do anything. Again, they only have access to the back end. They could have access to more, but as far as we're aware, that's not happening. Okay? Also, they shouldn't have your passwords. This is, again, if you want, you could reset your password. You could change all of this stuff. You don't have to, though, because I don't think a lot of you guys know how passwords work. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's not like they just have a giant text document that just says, here is Varsity's password. Here is Evan's password. Here is Priest's password. It doesn't work like that. So even if they do have access to the passwords on file, it's not your actual passwords. So, all right. I tried to explain this as best as I can for the people who don't understand how hashing, salting, all that stuff works. So, the way a security system works for your password, let's say your password is Hunter2. The way it works is they have their own encryption stuff, which is called salting, hashing. I can't remember. I learned this fucking like 9 years ago. So they will change your password. So they put it through their system, which does like a ton of, things in the background that I do not know about. It converts your password into this. So Hunter2 would turn into like @ capital L 2 dot hyphen XY. All right. If they were to access passwords, this is what they would have. They would have this hashed password. So they can't really do a whole lot with this. They could try to reverse engineer it, but they need to know what the original password is, which they don't know. Whenever you enter a password, it goes through the system and then it compares what password you put in after it's hashed with the password they have on file. So like if you put in, instead of Hunter2, if you put in Hunter1, it will give you a similar password, but it might not be exactly the same. Like instead of a Y at the end, it might be a Z. So then they'll be like, this doesn't match. This is not the same, reject it. So again, if they have the hash passwords, you're not really at risk unless they can find a way to reverse engineer the entire password system for Ubisoft, which I think is very unlikely. Also, I think it's incredibly unlikely they even have access to this, but I'm just explaining it to you guys so you don't have to worry about your password being compromised, because as far as we're aware, that is not a thing. Again, it looks like all they had access to was the backend system to push through changes, but as far as we're aware, they didn't have access to actually pull data from there. Could be wrong. We don't know. This is all pure speculation. So, as far as we're aware, you don't have to worry about any of that. You're not compromised. Ubisoft is compromised. And even then, it's just like the server backend is compromised, not all of the information. Okay? I think that's basically everything, though. So, this is the whole timeline, and that's what you need to know. So, as far as you guys are concerned, you're fine. This is important for you guys to know as well. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, okay? I could have just made all this shit up and you guys are just believing me because I put it down on a whiteboard. Take everything you see with a grain of salt. I am as aware as you guys are. Sure, I have some more background knowledge on how like systems work, but at the end of the day, I'm about as clueless as you guys, okay? So you shouldn't just believe everything, because again, I could say you are not compromised. What if we are? Fuck if I know. I'm going based off of my base level knowledge. We could all be fucked. They could have access to all of our computers. We don't know. But yeah, so just because I'm telling you guys all this and I'm trying to break it down does not mean it's 100% accurate. Obviously go with what Ubisoft tells you. Whatever they say is probably as accurate as we're going to get. Obviously, Ubisoft is not going to tell us everything. They will try as hard as they can to keep the information down to a minimum, because whenever they spread information about how stuff happens, other people get ideas. So like if they say, so I don't think I actually even mentioned this. Not really. So this very likely, we mentioned it before I started pulling out the whiteboard. This very likely all happened because of social engineering. Social engineering is like the number one way with how people get access to things they shouldn't have access to nowadays. Social engineering is the act of tricking people into giving you access to things you shouldn't have access to. Think of it like if you were to go, you know how people see this all the time on TikTok and stuff. If you go to the movie theater with a clipboard, a hard hat, and a reflector vest and say, I'm here to come inspect something, they'll probably just let you in and then you can just go see a movie, right? That's social engineering. That is tricking people into thinking you are something that you are not, or getting information from them and then using that to your advantage to get something for free or access something for free. So a big thing nowadays, this is very common across basically any company you will work for now that is tech related, is they will now have social engineering tests. So the number one way that people get access to things they shouldn't have access to is phishing emails. So what is a phishing email? I'm sure 90% of you know this, but I'm going to say it just in case. A phishing email will just say, hey, we have a survey for you, or hey, like check out this link. People will click on it, and then the link will install a virus or access something or whatever. It'll just do something to get information from you, and then they have access to everything. So it's just like clicking the wrong link, downloading the wrong attachment, stuff like that. And they usually try to mask themselves as an official entity. So you guys have probably gone a million phishing attempts in your life and you just ignore them all. Sometimes people fall for them. It happens. To use a personal example, I know someone who they woke up in the middle of the night and they got an email saying, hey, you have to pay for your, what's it called, like import fees on this product. And while they were in the washroom, half asleep, they just paid it off because they were like, oh, yeah, I shipped something. I got to pay it off. That was a phishing scam. They inputted their credit card got compromised because they take advantage of the fact that you might think like, oh yeah, I did ship something, or oh yeah, like, you know, I probably did forget to pay my customs on something, or it's in the middle of the night and you might be asleep. So people will fall for this. It happens to everyone. A lot of companies, again, do phishing email tests. A big thing nowadays is that HR or IT will work together. They'll send out a phishing email test to everyone or to a couple people. If you fail and you click on it, you have to go through training. If you pass, you're good. They know that you're safe. Like, you'll know what you're doing. But to loop back to the original point, people who try to hack into the system will send phishing emails or phishing scams of whatever kind they can to Ubisoft employees. And this happens for every company. This happens for Rockstar. This happens for Riot. This happens for any company out there that makes games, or even technology. They will get phishing emails. It happens. So all you need is one employee, just one, and you can get in. If it's not through phishing emails, a lot of times it's just people you know. A lot of leaks that have happened in Siege and in every other game as well, it's just people you know. Someone has a brother who works at Siege or like on Siege, or they have like, you know, a mom who works there or a dad or whatever. And obviously your family does not think that you're going to go through their computer and figure stuff out and post it, but that happens. To use an example, GTA 6. We talked about this earlier. GTA 6 was leaked like 20 minutes of gameplay or 10 minutes of gameplay because the son of a dev wanted to be TikTok famous, so he recorded 10 to 20 minutes of GTA 6 and posted it online. It happens all the time. Obviously, no one's going to assume that their kid, their brother, their sibling, whatever of any kind is going to do this, but it happens all the time. And obviously, you can go extra miles to try to protect yourself and protect your company, but at the end of the day, if someone works from home, how many of them are going to think that their kid is going to steal something or do something? They're just probably going to leave their laptop or whatever, and then the kid doesn't. It happens. That is something that will never be fixed because people trust family too much. Let this be a lesson. Never trust your family. They're all out to get you. So, phishing emails, people you know, and then other things they do, which is like, it kind of ties into phishing emails, but it's also its own thing. So, the next one is they'll get info from you, and then they'll reverse engineer their way in. So, I can't think of like a specific example off the top of my head. I've heard of stories like this. Who knows how accurate they are, but some things that people will do is like they've catfished devs. And they've gotten personal information from them and then use that to log in to their work stuff and access stuff. Bobby, lead developer of Siege Anti-Cheat, feeling kind of lonely, gets catfished by a online person. They find out information about how Bobby, you know, whatever he likes, his favorite color, his second grade teacher's name, whatever. And then they log into his account because they're like, hey, what's your security password? Oh, your second grade teacher's name? Fucking Mrs. Bobinson. And then they log in. All right? So fucking Bobby out here getting the system compromised because he's lonely and desperate. But it happens. I know you guys are lonely and desperate. I know you guys would fall for this in a fucking heartbeat. It happens. They'll get info, reverse engineer their way in. And then as far as the system is aware, Bobby just logged in for the day. And Bobby just banned everyone. And then they're like, Bobby, what the fuck happened? He's like, wasn't me. I'm in Barbados with Mrs. Bobinson, who actually turned out to be his wife. He married her 20 years later. I know. Plot twist. So that's how else they'll get in. And then this is also one of the hardest things to counter because that's just social life. Like people talk about themselves in general to other people, and then they use that as a way to get in. It's the same thing as like if someone tricks you into getting your PIN for your credit card, you might not think about it, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm in. I figured it out because you told me your 4 favorite numbers in sequence, like, you know, stuff like that. I guess not specific for another topic, but so to go back to all of this, social engineering is very likely how they got in. It is very unlikely that they just like, you know, found a fucking backdoor panel that they opened. They're like, oh my god, I have access to everything. Generally, it's how they get in. This is also how majority of leaks happen in Siege, is that they get information from people. They sometimes all they'll do is like if they use a phishing email, they'll get access to your email for leaks specifically, and then they'll just post whatever information comes through emails or Slack or whatever. It happens all the time. The only way to combat that is to do stuff like resetting your password every week, which is just obscene. So this is very likely what happened. They probably got in. Also, a lot of times, I don't know how many of you guys have ever had this. If your credit card has ever been compromised, most people, when they compromise a credit card, they don't use it right away. So they probably social engineered their way into the back end of Siege and just haven't done anything for a while, and then they do it now, so that it's harder for them to figure it out. Because like, let's say you send a phishing email, Bobby clicks on it, right? You have his login. If you immediately log into Siege and start banning people, they're going to be like, we figured out exactly what it was. It was a phishing email that Bobby clicked on, gave someone access, they banned people. Super easy to track. Meanwhile, Bobby clicks that phishing email, you don't do anything for like 6 months, and then suddenly you start banning people. They're like, what the fuck is going on? How did they get in? We don't know what happened. It's very likely they have had access for a long time and they just haven't done anything about it because they didn't want to get caught right away. Bobby sounds like a bitch. Bobby fucking ruined Siege, I'll tell you that much. You predicted it though? It's obvious. Every year this happens. Every single year that Ubisoft goes on holiday, something happens. Doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure it out, you know? Last year, same thing happened. It's never been to this level, but every year around Christmas time, something bad happens where it's usually something like cheats are just fully back online. When was the chicken? Was that last year in Christmas as well? I don't know. It's been 10 years. It's hard for me to remember everything that's ever happened in Siege, but there's always, around Christmas time, there's always some crazy cheat, hack, exploit thing that happens, and then shit happens for a few days. It's also, again, it's not a Siege only thing. Do you guys remember? Actually, you guys probably weren't even born yet. It was Christmas of 2012, I think, where they shut down, like a group of hackers shut down PlayStation for 2 weeks, a week. It was like, I think they were called like LOL Squad or something. I don't know. Ball Sacks, something like that. Lizard Squad, that, yeah. They shut down PlayStation for like a week just to say, fuck you. This happens. And they do it over Christmas because they know a lot of people are out of office. They know it's harder to get all hands on deck to fix the situation. They always do it around Christmas for different games, different companies, different reasons, whatever it is. I guess ultimately, also the last thing to say, we don't know the reason for this. We have no idea why they're doing this, but it's just very likely that they just want to fuck over the devs. Again, it does take a very particular type of person to want to do this in the first place, but usually they do this because they're like, I want to ruin their Christmas. It's depressing as hell to think that that's what they want to do, but that is what they do. Would this be considered a crime? So stuff like this is a crime because what you're doing is essentially shutting down a company's ability to make money. Same thing happened with the PlayStation hack in 2012, 2011, whenever that was. It's a crime. It's a crime to do this shit. Does anything ever happen? Usually not. Because at the end of the day, first off, finding out who it was is going to be hard enough. Second off, doing anything about it and getting, a court order, and them sometimes, in some cases, you might need to extradite them from a country because they might live in fucking Uganda and the company's based out of France. It's just like, Is France gonna fucking send the military to go extradite some 12-year-old hacker out of their home to put them in court? Probably not. Oh, okay. Last thing we'll talk about, or I'll add to the whiteboard, and then we can just mindlessly talk about other stuff. There is an ongoing theory with a lot of the community, and this has been a theory for every possible thing that ever happens with Ubisoft, Siege, whatever. Was it an inside job? Obviously, any company is going to always say no. They're going to say, no, it was not an inside job. It was someone else who did it. But this type of shit happens all the time. For every game company, ever. For every game out there that you can think of, guaranteed, there was at least like one dev at some point who was willing to sell their soul basically for money and to do stuff that they shouldn't be doing. It happens. Every single company out there will always have insider people looking to do stuff like that. It happens. I personally don't think that one of the devs was the reason for this. Like, I don't think they intentionally chose to do this. Because again, this is also over Christmas break. If you're a dev at this company and you know a lot of the people, obviously, that you work with, are you going to sell some information that will fuck over everyone you know over Christmas break? Depending on how much money it is, maybe. But like, also, these cheaters don't really gain anything from doing this. Like, the people who did this aren't making money. So they're not going to pay a dev a shit ton. Because, like, imagine if you're the people doing this and you're like, we make $0 off of this and we have to pay a dev $10,000 for the information. Like, I can't imagine many groups who would want to do that unless they just have fucking shit tons of money, which very unlikely. They're all poor. You always can, someone in the chat's right, you can always just like steal credit cards and send money and do whatever, but that all becomes more traceable. As soon as you steal a credit card and you start transferring money to a dev, that becomes very easily traceable, and that's going to become a big issue for the dev to get caught. Cheat devs are not poor. Cheat devs are not the people doing this. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm going off of reasonable knowledge here and like, you know, does it make sense? Cheat developers make their money while Siege is online. Every day that Siege is down, Siege cheat developers lose a shit ton of money or potential income. Having a cheat developer do this to shut down Siege would just fuck them over. You want Siege to be online. You want Siege to continue running so that you can keep making money, because Siege cheat developers usually sell their cheats based off time. So they'll say like, you can rent the cheats for an hour, for a day, for a week. If Siege is down for a day, you lose customers. Siege cheat providers wouldn't want this to happen. I think it'd be more likely, again, I'm not saying based off any information, I'm just saying it would probably be more likely that a Siege developer would help with the cheat developer. I don't think a Siege developer would help with just taking down the game, because that just doesn't make any sense. Someone said their theory is that big cheat providers did this to send a message because Ubisoft is actually getting rid of cheaters, like pretty concretely. Again, I disagree. Even if Ubisoft is taking down a lot of cheats and making it harder for them to earn money, would you rather, if you own a company, would you rather make some money or zero money? I think the answer is pretty obvious that you'd rather make some money. If you take down Siege, again, you make no money. So you might as well just let them keep doing their anti-cheat thing. And like cheat providers, I'm not going to lie, they're not stupid. We all know this. They're unfortunately smart people who just don't want to use their knowledge for good. So instead they use it to help degenerates cheat. So they're not going to be dumb and shut down the game. And most cheat providers, when they realize that a game is not worth providing cheats for because it's too hard, they just move on to a different game. Because there's a million games out there and a million cheats they can make. If they look at Siege and they're like, man, it's impossible now for us to make cheats, they're going to move on to Arc Raiders. They're going to move on to Tarkov. They're going to move on to all these other games that have worse anti-cheats and they can easily make cheats for and make money off of. That's just how the business works. Again, I don't think this was an inside job. I think it's way more likely that this is just a group of disgruntled people who just hate Ubisoft, hate the devs, and have been planning this for a while. Again, I don't think that this was planned in the spur of the moment. I think it's incredibly unlikely that they figured this out on Christmas Day and they're like, fuck, let's do this quick. They probably have had access to this for a while. They chose to act now when Ubisoft is out of office. That's about all there is to it. Anything else beyond this is all just pure speculation and pure conjecture. Like, no one knows for sure what is happening other than Ubisoft themselves. Probably even the people who did this don't know what's happening anymore, because I'm sure Ubisoft probably just shut down everything. They're like, well, we have access to nothing now. And that's going to be it for the video. I did ramble on about a bunch of random topics for the next 20 minutes or so, but not going to include that here. It's currently also 5 p.m. on Saturday, and I have not seen any updates other than the one I showed you partway through the video. This video is scheduled for 11 a.m. on Sunday, so we'll see what has happened between 5 to 11. I can't imagine the game will fully come back online by then, but I'm sure they're probably paying a bunch of employees a lot of overtime to just try to emergency get the game on as fast as possible. And if the game's back up and running, awesome. But just so you guys know, from the overall perspective, it looks like there's not much to worry about.